The art of the deal has become U.S. foreign policy, and it's working, and it's common sense. When a country needs you more than you need them, you have the upper hand. That's the art of the deal. But when a country is run by somebody like this, the characteristics of that person seep into the subconscious of an entire population. And when that man was in charge, this country felt like him, looked like him, and acted a lot like him. Weakness was our policy. Weakness at home, weakness abroad. None of it was normal. And on January 20th, that policy changed. America will no longer be a doormat for the rest of the world. That man right there is somebody that is no longer in charge. And if all that means offending people, like maybe our neighbors, like maybe Canada, well, so be it. According to a CBS News poll, 67% of Americans are optimistic about the next 4 years, meaning our mood has shifted because we now have a strong leader back in the White House, a strong leader who wrote a book that is now famous. He wrote it in 1987 called The Art of the Deal, which has become the underlying doctrine for U.S. foreign policy. If the war in Ukraine does end, it's the art of the deal. If the war in Gaza does end, it's the art of the deal. Reciprocal tariffs on other countries are the art of the deal, but not everyone's going to like it. Feelings are definitely going to get hurt. Donald Trump on Truth Social today, based on Ontario, Canada, placing a 25% tariff on electricity coming into the United States. I have instructed my Secretary of Commerce to add an additional 25% tariff, now 50%, on all steel and aluminum coming into the U.S. from Canada. That's the highest of any nation in the world. This will go into effect tomorrow morning, March 12th. Canada must also stop their anti-American farmer tariff of 250% to 390% on various U.S. dairy products, which is outrageous. If other egregious long-time tariffs are not likewise dropped by Canada, I will substantially increase the April 2nd tariffs on cars coming into the U.S., which will essentially shut down the automobile market in Canada. Those cars can be made in the USA. Also, Canada pays very little for national security, relying on the United States for military protection. We are subsidizing Canada to the tune of more than $200 billion a year. Why? This cannot continue. The only thing that makes sense is for Canada to become our cherished 51st state. This would make all tariffs and everything else totally disappear. Their taxes would be reduced. They will be more secure. They would no longer be a northern border country. They would now be part of the greatest, most powerful nation in the world. We will be bigger, better, and stronger than ever. And just, by the way, no other news anchor would read this whole thing, but this whole thing is so substantial and tremendous that I'm reading all of it. It goes on. And Canada will be part of that. The artificial line of separation drawn many years ago will finally disappear, and we will have the safest, most beautiful nation anywhere in the world. And your brilliant anthem, "O Canada," will continue to play, but now representing a great, powerful state within the greatest nation the world has ever seen. That was Donald Trump on Truth Social today. That is also the art of the deal. He is serious, although not about everything, which is also part of the way he does business. That's the art of the deal. He's serious about a lot of that, which is why I read you all of that. No one else would read you all of that. They would cherry pick. You needed to hear all of it to understand what I'm talking about. And this is a promotional ad that Ontario, Canada has been airing in cities and towns across the U.S. over the last several months to remind you just how nice those Canadians really are.
For generations, this ally to the north has been by your side. Ontario, Canada, a partner connected by shared history, shared values, and a shared vision for what we can achieve together. Stable and secure when the world around us isn't. You can rely on Ontario for energy to power your growing economy and for the critical minerals crucial to new technologies. Ontario is your third largest trading partner and the #1 export destination for 17 states.
Yeah, apparently not of electricity. We'll get into that in just a moment. But Canada's been ripping off the U.S. for a long time. No wonder they like the U.S. so much. The U.S. now unleashing what they're calling tariffs on Canada, because Canada has been putting tariffs on us. And every American president has refused to level the playing field because Canadians are so nice and we like Canadians, which is wonderful. I like Canadians, but I also don't like getting ripped off. I don't like America getting ripped off by a neighbor who claims to be a friend. Guess what? Friends don't rip off friends. If they do, they're not friends. And now we're all being told on a daily basis that tariffs are bad for America by people that have no idea what they're talking about. That the White House is wrong about tariffs by the same people that told us that inflation was transitory, the same people that lied to us about food prices, gas prices, mortgage rates. They're now claiming that tariffs are not only bad, but that America's going to get ripped off. That's just part of the deal. America getting ripped off. It's always been that way. America will be fine. This headline from Brown University. A global economist's take on tariffs. American consumers will get hurt. Did you hear that? According to a global economist who works at Brown, tariffs are not good, according to that global economist. I have no idea what a global economist is. I don't know the difference between a global economist and a domestic economist. There's not one, but I'm sure if you met one, they would tell you there's a difference. Headline after headline, all written by these same types of people, all saying the very same thing, that Trump tariffs are bad, and it's the same thing on television. One global economist after another trying to convince you that Trump tariffs are bad and naughty.
The way the tariffs are going are very uncertain. They're on, they're off, they're on, they're off. All of this is created by Trump for Trump. You know, there's no reason why any of this has to happen, right? There's no reason that we have to have a trade war with China.
And this is all, let's be clear, his doing.
Yeah.
He inherited a strong economy. It's his decisions that have led us to this moment.
It's just fascinating to me that more people aren't talking about the fact that he is tanking the economy that he got.
Donald Trump is not tanking the economy. Reciprocal tariff basically means that whatever you charge me, I will charge you. Not more, not less. Meaning if Canada puts a 25% tariff on the electricity that powers over 1 million homes in places like Michigan, Minnesota, and New York, the United States has every right to put a 25% tariff or even a 50% tariff on steel and aluminum coming from Canada, which almost happened today.
Already Canada, and I respect very much. As you know, there's a very strong man in Canada who said he was going to charge a surcharge or a tariff on electricity coming into our country. He has called and he said he's not going to do that. Okay, he's not going to do that. And it would have been a very bad thing if he did. And he's not going to do that, so I respect that. But we were just informed that he's not going to do that.
Ontario, Canada Premier Doug Ford is going to be joining us in just a moment. He tweeted out this afternoon that he had a productive conversation with Howard Lutnick and agreed to meet on Thursday in Washington to discuss a renewed USMCA. And in response, Ontario has agreed to suspend that 25% surcharge tariff on exports of electricity to Michigan, New York, and Minnesota. That right there is the art of the deal. But Premier Doug Ford also said this today.
There was an unprovoked attack on Canada, on families, on jobs, on businesses. For what reason? The market's speaking loud and clear. Consumer confidence is down. The market's tumbling. There's going to be plants closed in the U.S. Assembly plants will shut down because they won't have the aluminum, or they'll be paying 3 times as much. This is absolute chaos created by one person, and that's Donald Trump.
Again, he is standing by and will be with us momentarily. I think he's wrong. Donald Trump is now our commander-in-chief. He's also probably the greatest negotiator we've ever had in the White House. The president knows how to negotiate. He's not sitting in some think tank at Brown University with a bunch of economists that have never done anything in their lives besides getting an economics degree, writing about how theoretically tariffs are bad. And for generations, the swamp has been against tariffs without really knowing what tariffs are.
What about tariffs against our allies?
It will drive the cost of everything up. In other words, it'll be paid for by American consumers. I mean, why would you want to get in a fight with your allies over this?
What if your allies are ripping you off? If you're the world's greatest superpower, guess what? It's okay for you to throw your weight around from time to time. The Democrats do this by starting wars, proxy wars. Republicans do it by asserting U.S. economic power as leverage against other countries that are ripping us off, friend and foe alike, even Canada. Remember when the Colombian president told Donald Trump that Colombia was not going to take back Colombian illegal aliens living here illegally? Donald Trump was on the golf course at the time, and between holes, he posted this on Truth Social, that the U.S. would immediately impose a 10% tariff on all Colombian goods, including coffee and flowers. That trade war lasted exactly 2 hours, and Colombian illegals are now being flown back to Colombia. That right there is the art of the deal. At the time, AOC tweeted about what a trade war would mean for coffee prices and flower prices here in the U.S. What wasn't reported at that time by anyone but us was that the second it looked like the U.S. and Colombia were going to be in a trade war, Brazil raised their Brazil hand and said, hey, in Portuguese, we've got coffee and we've got flowers, and we'll ship them to you in the U.S. for less than Colombia. And that is the power of tariffs. The American economy is so good, is so strong, that the mere threat of tariffs, and suddenly everyone capitulates. In 1844, Abraham Lincoln said, give me a protective tariff and we will have the greatest nation on earth. He was right, meaning sometimes it's okay to impose your will on a foreign power to open up other opportunities with other countries like Brazil, for example, which is also better for the world. That's what free markets are all about. Fair trade is the greatest expression of free market capitalism on the planet, but the trade has got to be fair, and for a long time it has not been fair. Global economists don't like Trump tariffs because they're more concerned with short-term, fast money. If they want to join that country club down the road or that yacht club this summer, they need money now. They don't want cheap coffee prices. They need money now. So instead of cheap coffee prices in the short term, instead of forever, they would take the short term every time. And that short-term emotion was all over the Wall Street Journal. Jerry Baker, says, pray for surrender in Trump's dumb trade war. Not his best piece. But what Jerry is failing to mention is that every time Donald Trump threatens tariffs, Americans get a better deal. And all of this will make America safer and stronger. So despite what those global economists are saying, I think it's pretty clear that Trump tariffs are not only a good thing for Americans, but they are already working in Canada. Is next.